AI 2041. How will artificial intelligence transform our lives over the next 2 decades? Most of the time, living in the modern world feels as if we are existing inside a science fiction fantasy. Who would have imagined that one day we could ask our home gadgets to play music for us, or carry tiny computers in our pockets that remind us when it's time to go for a walk? The development of deep learning and natural language processing is accelerating innovations related to artificial intelligence. Autonomous vehicles and weapons continue to be developed, and deepfake videos and virtual reality games look so real and convincing that distinguishing truth from illusion has become difficult. Artificial intelligence can predict what food you like and what political beliefs you lean toward. But can it make you happy? AI can make you happy by analyzing your personal data, but its positive results rarely last. It may fulfill our pleasure-seeking desires, yet it does not help us meet our deeper needs. In the summary of AI 2041, we will see that the revolution of clean energy, the reduction of production costs, and the automation of many jobs thanks to artificial intelligence will drastically lower labor expenses. If the benefits of the clean energy revolution are distributed throughout society, then fear of hunger or homelessness will no longer have meaning. In the era of AI advancement, basic human needs, such as food, shelter, and comfort, will be satisfied. However, predicting how this new era will fulfill more complex desires is much more difficult. If people no longer need to work, will they still have motivation to strive for self-actualization? What will allow them to feel like valued members of their community and give them experiences of love and belonging? Can artificial intelligence become a threat to humanity? Are the development of autonomous weapons and self-driving machines truly in our best interest? Could AI replace human relationships? Could a wave of unemployment be one of the consequences of unrestrained AI progress? The book AI 2041 seeks to answer such questions, aiming to acquaint us with the lesser-known dimensions of technological advances in artificial intelligence, while warning of their potential harmful effects. Although artificial intelligence can improve our lives, it can also turn our information into a weapon against us. Year 2041, Mumbai. The Nayana family switched their insurance company to a provider called Ganesh in order to reduce their insurance costs. But there was a catch. They had to agree to share all of their personal information with the company. Ganesh asked them to use a specific set of applications for various tasks, ranging from investments to finding the best supermarkets. In the weeks following the contract, the company constantly contacted them with different recommendations. These applications told them when to drink water or instructed the family's grandfather to drive more slowly. They issued so many warnings about Nayana's father smoking that he eventually quit. With every correct decision that benefited the family's health, their insurance premium decreased. It seemed like a win-win deal for everyone. However, when Nayana decided to marry a man who was slightly lower than her in social status and wealth, the family's insurance premium increased. Somehow, the AI had inferred that he came from a different social status and interpreted it as a risk to the family's health. Nayana's story reveals the unpleasant dimensions of AI expansion. It shows how artificial intelligence can replicate the existing discrimination within society. One of the most important advances in AI over the past decade has been deep learning. Deep learning enables computers to predict, classify data, and recognize patterns. This platform, by analyzing every click you make and comparing its data with millions of other records in the system, can accurately predict what content will attract your attention. Deep learning can have many benefits. Artificial intelligence can analyze millions of data points and establish connections that human minds cannot conceive. Yet AI lacks the detail and complexity of human thought. It cannot draw upon personal experiences, abstract concepts, or common sense. And importantly, AI is vulnerable to bias and discrimination. In Nayana's story, the application didn't know that her fiancé belonged to a different social class, or, as commonly referred to in Indian sociology, a different caste, and that such a marriage is considered socially undesirable. However, by analyzing family data and tracking their residence, it still concluded that the marriage was a threat to the family's health. Deep learning will become more common and powerful in the coming years. One of our most pressing concerns in the near future will be how to make this learning more beneficial and useful for society. By 2041, deepfake videos will become so convincing that identifying fraudsters and scammers will be almost impossible. Amaka was terrified. A secret company had asked her to use her skills as an expert programmer to create a deepfake video. She was forced to make a video of a prominent Nigerian politician confessing to a moral scandal. The company warned her that if she refused to do it, they would release a fake video of her showing a secret relationship with another man. Naturally, such a video could get her into trouble and cause serious problems between her and her family. In 2018, a video of Obama, the former president of the United States, circulated online in which he called President Trump a complete idiot. The release of this video caused an uproar. But the key point is that the video wasn't real at all. It was a deepfake created by BuzzFeed to demonstrate what artificial intelligence technology could do, and to warn people to view what they see with skepticism. AI developers, in order to build deepfake technology, first had to teach computers image processing and understanding. Therefore, they took inspiration from the human brain, which has a visual cortex that gathers information about an image before sending it to the neocortex. The neocortex processes the information and assigns more complex meaning to what is perceived. Using this model, designers created a convolutional neural network, or CNN. To create a deepfake, a special technology called a generative adversarial network, or GAN, is needed, which consists of two CNNs. For example, if a forger analyzes images of dogs, they can generate a fake image of a dog. Then the image is sent to the second CNN in the network, which acts as a detective. The detective tests the fake image against real ones and notifies the forger of any possible errors. The forger then uses this feedback to improve the image and resends it to the detective. This cycle repeats millions of times until the fake dog becomes indistinguishable from a real one. This process can be used to create deepfake videos and equally convincing images. However, such videos can have dangerous consequences. As Amaka's story shows, deepfakes can be used as political weapons to discredit election candidates or spread propaganda. They can also be used to intimidate or blackmail people. Even in the real world, in 2019, a massive number of pornographic videos featuring the faces of celebrities and well-known individuals were uploaded to adult websites. Programmers are trying to build software capable of detecting the hidden flaws in deepfakes that escape the human eye. But deepfakes themselves are advancing just as quickly. Artificial intelligence accompanies us to introduce new ways of learning. When Golden Sparrow was just a child, she lost her parents in a car accident and was sent to an orphanage. Those responsible for her care chose a special friend for her, a companion whom Golden Sparrow named after her favorite superhero, Ottoman. To see Ottoman, she had to use a special virtual reality headset. Very soon, Golden became so attached to Ottoman that she always wore her glasses. Ottoman was an extraordinary companion because he knew everything about Golden and had access to her cloud data. A biometric band was also attached to Golden's wrist, continuously monitoring and reporting on her physiological and behavioral status. Ottoman became Golden's best friend. He helped her with her homework, answered her questions, and organized exciting activities for her. Although most people do not need a virtual companion like Ottoman, many of us have interacted with AI assistants. For instance, you might have spoken to an automated voice assistant when you tried to change your flight date. Computer scientists have spent years trying to make computers capable of speaking with humans. Until recently, however, these efforts had met with limited success, as training a system to respond properly in conversational contexts proved very difficult. Then things changed with Google's invention of the transformer in 2017. The transformer is a sequence transfer neural network. By analyzing millions of pages of text, it can independently identify patterns of conversation and predict what the appropriate response to a given phrase should be. Recently, the OpenAI Institute created and launched a device capable of mimicking any writer's style and composing poetry. This device is fed with text that would take someone 500,000 years to read. These developments can completely transform the learning process. Personalized AI teachers can pay sufficient attention to each student and dedicate time to them, something that seldom happens in crowded classrooms. AI educators can relieve human teachers of heavy tasks such as grading essays, assigning homework, and answering routine questions. In turn, human teachers will play a fundamental role in helping students develop emotional intelligence, creativity, and social skills, qualities where humans, unlike artificial intelligence, truly excel. Artificial intelligence will transform the healthcare system for the post-corona generation. Chen belongs to the COVID generation, which emerged over the 2 decades following the outbreak of COVID-19 that devastated the world. She cannot even remember a time when people were not afraid of getting sick. COVID returns every year as a seasonal flu. Everyone must wear a biosensor on their wrist that continuously monitors and transmits their physiological data. Nan has painful memories of losing her grandparents during the first outbreak, and she is so afraid of getting infected that she never leaves her apartment. She receives all her essentials disinfected and delivered right to her door by courier robots. Domestic robots help her keep everything clean. She works online, so she has no reason to go outside. There is only one small problem: she is completely isolated. How can she connect with others, fall in love, and make friends when she has locked herself inside her home? Nan's story is a hypothetical example of the long-term effects of COVID on people's lives. But an important point exists: advances in artificial intelligence can be useful both in treating disease and in enabling people to modify their behavior to prevent infection. Even today, smartphones can calculate disease risk, and many countries have developed apps that send alerts when a potentially infected person is nearby. The growing use of such apps has sparked extensive debates about the balance between protecting privacy and ensuring safety. In the future, as in our fictional story, people might need to carry a biosensor to show their vaccination status, transmit physiological data, and indicate when their vaccination expires. Moreover, with the digitization of health records, more and more doctors are relying on these systems for diagnosis and treatment, and the creation of new software will accelerate the development of COVID vaccines. COVID may have long-lasting effects on mental health and social habits. It is true that many people do not confine themselves at home, but many have become far more cautious about where they go and whom they meet. AI technologies such as delivery robots reinforce these behavioral changes. However, robots still cannot experience love. Therefore, those who find themselves unable to engage in face-to-face communication, like Chen, will eventually have to leave their homes. Mixed reality will blur the boundary between the real and the imaginary world. The session took place in a dark room with candles and rose petals on the table. Aiko was both frightened and excited. The elderly woman, who was a medium or spirit messenger, began the ceremony. Suddenly, the table started shaking violently, and the woman's voice transformed into that of a young man. Aiko knew it was Hiroshi, her favorite rock star who had mysteriously died. Aiko was participating in an XR extended reality game. This game allowed her to feel as if she were truly speaking with the man she deeply admired. In fact, her XR glasses enabled her to see the spirit of the person she longed to meet, though contrary to her expectations, it appeared like a ghost. The storyline of the game was fully customized to Aiko's interests, desires, and fears because, prior to playing, she had filled out a detailed questionnaire on her phone. Aiko's game was completely three-dimensional and immersive. It included not only virtual reality elements, but also enabled her to see an imaginary world through her headset. Moreover, Hiroshi's spirit appeared to her in familiar locations, like her home or busy city streets, and interacted with objects in the real physical environment. This is what is called mixed reality, one of the newest and most advanced XR achievements. The technology is still in its early stages, as it requires capabilities such as scene recognition and mastery of natural language processing. Yet, in the next 20 years, it will become significantly more prominent and important, gradually erasing the line between reality and illusion. Special haptic gloves and suits worn by participants also allow them to feel sensations of warmth or cold, and even simulate the sense of touch. The most obvious application of these technologies is immersive gaming, like Aiko's experience. But they can also be used for military training simulations, allowing soldiers to practice under realistic combat conditions. They may enable young surgeons to refine their skills on virtual patients or let students meet historical figures in their classrooms. XR holds the potential to reshape how we play, learn, and work. Yet it can also be misused. If people wear XR glasses all day, They must grant various applications access to all their personal data, allowing these programs to collect extensive details about their lives. Therefore, we should adopt a critical perspective toward this issue and establish regulations to protect users' privacy. Autonomous vehicles could trigger a revolution in transportation systems, but access to this technology will not be easy. Shamal was driving his car through the streets of Colombo, a city in Sri Lanka, from his room at an educational center. His current mission was to rescue tourists from a terrorist attack at a famous temple. Although his vehicle was self-driving, even autonomous cars can encounter difficulties or damage from unexpected incidents along normal driving routes. Therefore, Shamal tried to steer his car toward greater safety. As he made his way to the temple, he passed through columns of smoke, collected frightened and disoriented tourists, and guided them through chaotic, crowded streets back to their hotels. With every gunshot echoing from the distance, Shamal could feel the tremor caused by nearby explosions. The dream of creating fully autonomous vehicles was, for decades, considered unreachable. In reality, driving is an extremely complex task. Imagine getting into your car and setting out for a destination. You must use your perception to assess the scene in front of you and search for obstacles. When deciding which route to take, you need strong navigation and planning skills. Furthermore, you must anticipate other drivers' movements and always be ready to make instantaneous decisions in emergencies. Even for the most sophisticated computers, imitating these human capabilities is extraordinarily difficult. Countless variables arise while driving: bad weather, road construction, or a sudden animal crossing. How can a robot be trained to handle all these possibilities? Unlike other AI experiments, testing this technology is hazardous and carries significant risk. Yet human drivers themselves do not have an impressive safety record. More than 1,350,000 people die in traffic accidents every year. The number could decrease considerably with the adoption of autonomous vehicles. Using augmented reality glasses that projected the surroundings of the car onto a large display, Shamal guided the vehicle from a virtual zone to a secure location. Employing human drivers remotely to assist autonomous cars is currently one of the safer strategies. Another approach is to fundamentally redesign our roads and cities. Imagine smart highways that constantly communicate with vehicles, or roads separated entirely for pedestrians and cars. Perhaps in the future, this vision will become reality. Autonomous weapons pose a serious threat to humanity. When Mark's wife and son died in the California wildfire, grief pushed him to the brink of insanity. But soon his sorrow turned into anger. The fire had been caused by climate change, which itself stemmed from the world's unrestrained obsession with technological progress at any cost. Mark, a physicist working on a model of a quantum computer, finally decided to use his knowledge and skills to destroy the world that had brought him so much pain. He also targeted major ports and, by completely disrupting the oil supply chain, caused massive destruction and chaos. Although this story may sound far-fetched, drones like Mark's have already existed. In fact, the Israeli military has developed a drone capable of identifying a specific target and destroying it by detonating an explosive inside it. Even less sophisticated drones can be dangerous. Recently, Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela, was targeted during a speech by two drones carrying explosives and narrowly escaped death. Autonomous weapons have triggered a new global arms race, as world powers compete to build the fastest and most lethal systems. Of course, nuclear weapons have long possessed the capacity to annihilate vast populations, yet they have also served as a deterrent against war. Simply knowing that major powers own nuclear weapons has been enough to prevent them from attacking each other. Autonomous weapons, on the other hand, can be used anonymously. If victims cannot determine where an attack originated, retaliation becomes nearly impossible, eliminating any deterrent effect. Moreover, such weapons could be exploited by terrorists like Mark in our story, who seek to sow chaos or ignite a deadly conflict. As artificial intelligence evolves, fueled by advances in quantum computing and accelerating research, autonomous weapons will become even more lethal. Therefore, developing strategies to safeguard humanity from these potential consequences is imperative. Proposed solutions include insisting on mandatory human mediation or completely banning such weapons, just as chemical weapons have been prohibited. Yet implementing any of these solutions will not be easy, as they require global consensus. Nevertheless, it is essential to act now to confront these challenges. Automation of work brings with it an unemployment crisis. A crowd of workers gathered in front of the headquarters of Landmark, one of the largest construction companies in the United States, to protest. This company had employed thousands of people, all of whom were about to lose their jobs. Why? Because AI employees could perform the same tasks faster and for free, replacing human labor and leaving workers jobless. As part of their final paycheck, the workers were enrolled in a job recovery company that promised to retrain them and find new employment. However, these new positions were often low-level jobs or located far from their families. Artificial intelligence had displaced them and turned their lives upside down. Today, the number of companies replacing their workers with AI systems is steadily increasing. Lower-tier, entry-level positions are most at risk, jobs typically held by those earning minimum wage. As a result, AI only widens the gap between rich and poor. Even trades such as plumbing are being taken over by machines trained to assemble standardized components, and this trend is becoming increasingly common. But this massive displacement of workers will have serious consequences. People will lose not only their income but also the social interaction and sense of purpose that meaningful work provides. Unemployment is linked to higher rates of alcoholism, depression, and suicide, and on such a large scale, these effects will be far more severe. Measures such as universal basic income could offer financial support and redistribute part of the enormous profits gained from job automation. However, that alone does not solve the problem of providing meaningful work for people. To achieve this, we must invest in educating humans so they can perform tasks that AI will never be able to do. Artificial intelligence excels at tasks that require no creativity, such as data analysis. Humans, on the other hand, possess creative thinking. We can connect abstract ideas, use common sense, and define our own goals. Any work requiring these capacities will always need human involvement. Humans also surpass AI in qualities such as empathy and compassion. An AI nurse might remind a patient to take their medication just as effectively as a human nurse, but it cannot express concern the way a person can. Therefore, caregiving professions will always require human participation. One of the best ways to support people who have lost their jobs because of AI is to help them find new paths that allow them to use their uniquely human skills. Final words. Artificial intelligence fuels technological and social transformations across every aspect of life, from social interaction to the kinds of jobs we choose. Yet it also has the potential to deploy dangerous autonomous weapons capable of destroying the civilization we know. As seen in several fictional stories within this book summary, AI, beyond its positive dimensions, can become a disruptive technology that will reshape our way of life over the next 20 years and beyond. Exactly how this happens, however, depends on us. Human governments hold the power to ensure that AI serves the collective good by protecting privacy, redistributing wealth, safeguarding the environment, and controlling weaponization. We are now at a critical juncture. Through the right decisions, we must shape the path of AI development and mitigate its adverse effects, because our happiness depends on it. Practical recommendation: be cautious and aware of what happens to your data. Every time you click on a post or search for a flight, you freely hand over your data to major corporations such as Google and Facebook. That information may be valuable and contain confidential personal details. Therefore, monitor how you share your data, review privacy statements carefully, and consider using alternative search engines that protect you from trackers.